Welcome to the Midnight Files channel. On the morning of December 4th, 1872, the crew of the British brigantine Dei Gratia spotted something unusual in the choppy waters of the Atlantic Ocean, about 400 miles east of the Azores. A ship was sailing toward them, but something seemed wrong. The vessel's sails were partially set, torn, and flapping in an uneven manner. The ship appeared to be drifting rather than following a proper course. Despite repeated attempts to hail the vessel, there was no response. The captain of the Dei Gratia, David Morehouse, felt a growing sense of concern. As the ship drew closer, he could make out its name painted on the stern, Mary Celeste, New York. Morehouse's concern turned to alarm. He knew this ship, he knew its captain. The Mary Celeste should have already reached its destination in Italy. Instead, it was here, drifting aimlessly in the Atlantic, and no one was responding to their calls. Morehouse ordered 3 of his men to row across and investigate. What they discovered when they boarded would create one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history. The ship was completely abandoned. Not a soul was on board. The Mary Celeste had not always borne that name. The ship was originally built in 1861 at a shipyard in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, and christened the Amazon. From the beginning, the vessel seemed to attract misfortune. During its maiden voyage, the captain fell ill with pneumonia and died. The ship was damaged on several occasions, and in October 1867 ran aground at Cow Bay, in Cape Breton Island. After this series of mishaps, the Amazon was sold in 1868 to American ownership. The new owners renamed the vessel Mary Celeste. Over the following years, the ship underwent significant structural modifications. In early 1872, she received a major refit, costing $10,000, which added a second deck and increased her length to 103 feet. Her tonnage increased to just over 280 tons. In October 1872, the ship came under the command of a new Captain Benjamin Briggs. Briggs was 37 years old and came from a seafaring family in Massachusetts. His father had been a ship captain, and several of his brothers also went to sea. Briggs himself had more than a decade of experience sailing and had achieved the rank of captain, earning a reputation as a competent and respected seaman. He was known as a devout Christian who abstained from alcohol and was described as fair and even-tempered in his dealings with crews. Briggs was married to Sarah Cobb, and they had 2 children, a 7-year-old son named Arthur and a 2-year-old daughter named Sophia Matilda. Briggs had invested his savings to purchase a significant share in the Mary Celeste, making him part owner as well as captain. This would be his first voyage commanding the vessel. Briggs carefully selected his crew of 7 men. The first mate, Albert Richardson, was married to a niece of one of the ship's other owners and had sailed under Briggs before. The second mate, Andrew Gilling, was about 25 years old, born in New York, and of Danish extraction. The remaining crew members were described in testimonials as peaceable and first-class sailors. Briggs made an unusual decision for this voyage. He would bring his wife Sarah and their young daughter Sophia along with him. His son Arthur would remain in Massachusetts, in the care of his grandmother, to continue attending school. On October 20th, 1872, Briggs supervised the loading of the ship's cargo at Pier 50 on the East River in New York City. The cargo consisted of 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, a form of industrial alcohol unfit for drinking, destined for Genoa, Italy. His wife and daughter joined him a week later. On November 3rd, Briggs wrote to his mother, expressing satisfaction with the ship and crew. He wrote that the vessel was in beautiful trim and expressed hope for a fine passage. The Mary Celeste was scheduled to depart on November 5th, but weather conditions were poor and Briggs decided to wait. He anchored the ship off Staten Island. Sarah used this delay to send a final letter to her mother-in-law. On November 7th, 1872, with improved weather, the Mary Celeste finally set sail from New York Harbor, beginning its journey to Genoa with 10 people aboard. At around this same time, another ship prepared to follow a similar route. The Canadian brigantine Dei Gratia was loading a cargo of petroleum in Hoboken, New Jersey, also bound for Genoa via Gibraltar. Its captain was David Morehouse, a highly experienced Nova Scotian seaman. Some accounts suggest that Captain Morehouse and Captain Briggs knew each other, perhaps even dining together the night before the Mary Celeste departed, though the evidence for this close friendship is limited to a recollection made 50 years later. Regardless of whether they were close, friends or casual acquaintances, Morehouse certainly knew who Briggs was. The Dei Gratia departed on November 15th, 8 days after the Mary Celeste, following the same general transatlantic route. According to the ship's log, the Mary Celeste encountered heavy weather during its voyage across the Atlantic. By November 25th, the ship had reached the vicinity of the Azores, a chain of Portuguese islands in the mid-Atlantic. The last entry in the captain's log, made at either 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning on November 25th, noted that they were approximately 6 miles from Santa Maria Island in the Azores. All conditions were reported as normal. This was the last recorded communication from anyone aboard the Mary Celeste. 10 days later, on the afternoon of December 4, the Dei Gratia was sailing midway between the Azores and the Portuguese coast when a crew member spotted a vessel ahead. As they drew closer, they recognized it as the Mary Celeste. Captain Morehouse was puzzled and concerned. The Mary Celeste had left New York 8 days before his ship. By this point, it should have already arrived safely in Genoa. Yet here it was, still in the Atlantic, and its erratic sailing suggested no one was at the helm. Morehouse hailed the ship repeatedly. There was no response. He ordered a boarding party of 3 men to row across and investigate. When they climbed aboard the Mary Celeste, they found themselves in an eerie scene. The ship was completely deserted. Not a single person was on board. The investigation of the abandoned ship revealed a perplexing situation. The vessel was still seaworthy. There was water in the hold, approximately 3 to 3.5 feet of it, but this was not enough to cause serious concern or threaten the ship's safety. One of the ship's 2 pumps had been disassembled. The ship's rigging showed signs of disorder, and the compass in its housing had been damaged, its glass cover broken. The ship's only lifeboat was missing. However, what remained on board was perhaps even more puzzling than what was gone. The cargo of 1,701 barrels of alcohol was largely intact, though 9 barrels were found to be empty. There was a 6-month supply of food and fresh water. The crew's personal belongings were still in their quarters. The crew members' pipes for smoking had been left behind. The ship's log was intact, showing entries up through November 25th. What was missing, along with the people and the lifeboat, were specific items that suggested an orderly abandonment. The ship's sextant, chronometer, navigation book, and ship register were all gone. These were exactly the items a captain would grab if he needed to navigate in a lifeboat. This suggested that whatever had happened, Captain Briggs had at least some time to go below deck and collect essential navigational equipment before departing the ship. The boarding party from the Dei Gratia reported their findings to Captain Morehouse. He faced a significant decision. Under maritime law, anyone salvaging an abandoned ship could expect to receive a substantial payment from the ship's insurers based on the combined value of the rescued vessel and its cargo. Morehouse decided to split his crew between the 2 ships and sail both vessels to Gibraltar, approximately 800 miles away. The journey was slow and difficult, but both ships reached Gibraltar safely by December 12, 1872. British authorities at Gibraltar immediately began an investigation. The proceedings, overseen by the British Vice-Admiralty Court, lasted from December 17, 1872 until March 1873. The Attorney General for Gibraltar, Frederick Solly-Flood, was deeply suspicious of the circumstances. He suspected possible foul play, perhaps, even suggesting that the crew of the Dei Gratia had somehow been involved in the disappearance of the Mary Celeste's crew. Flood ordered a thorough examination of the vessel. Inspectors initially reported finding what appeared to be bloodstains on the deck and on a sword found in the captain's cabin. However, further analysis determined these were not blood. No evidence of violence was found. There were no signs of struggle. The cargo was intact, ruling out piracy as a motive. Personal valuables remained undisturbed, further suggesting that robbery was not involved. After 3 months of investigation, the court could find no evidence of foul play. They ultimately awarded the Dei Gratia crew a salvage payment, though it was relatively modest, reflecting lingering suspicions. Despite the lack of evidence, The mystery of what happened to the 10 people aboard the Mary Celeste has never been solved. Over the following decades, numerous theories have been proposed. The mystery gained widespread attention in 1884 when Arthur Conan Doyle, who would later become famous for creating Sherlock Holmes, published a short story called J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement. The story was a fictionalized account of the Mary Celeste incident, though Doyle spelled the ship's name as Mary Celeste. This misspelling became so widespread through the story's popularity that many people still incorrectly refer to the ship by that name today. Among the more plausible theories that have been advanced, several focus on the ship's cargo. The 9 empty barrels discovered on board suggest that some of the alcohol may have leaked. Industrial alcohol produces dangerous fumes. Some researchers have suggested that these fumes might have built up in the hold, causing a small explosion, or at least creating enough vapor that Captain Briggs feared an imminent explosion. This could have prompted him to order a temporary evacuation, with the plan being to follow behind the Mary Celeste in the lifeboat while the fumes dissipated. If the rope connecting the lifeboat to the ship broke during rough weather, the lifeboat and its occupants would have been left adrift in the Atlantic with no way to return to their ship. Another theory focuses on the water in the hold and the disassembled pump. Captain Briggs may have believed, perhaps, due to a faulty reading from the sounding rod used to measure water depth, that the ship was taking on more water than it actually was. Combined with a malfunctioning pump, this could have led him to believe the Mary Celeste was about to sink, abandoning ship to avoid going down with the vessel. The crew and passengers could have then perished in the lifeboat due to exposure, rough seas, or any number of maritime hazards. Some investigators have noted that the last log entry placed the Mary Celeste near Santa Maria Island on November 25th, yet the ship should have sighted this landmark 3 days earlier, according to the voyage plan. This suggests the ship was off course by approximately 120 miles, possibly due to navigational errors or rough weather. This navigational confusion might have contributed to whatever decision Captain Briggs made that led to abandoning the vessel. Less plausible theories have included mutiny, though this seems unlikely given Captain Briggs' reputation and the fact that he had handpicked his crew. Moreover, if the crew had mutinied and taken control of the ship, why would they then abandon it? Piracy has been ruled out due to the intact cargo and valuables. More fanciful theories involving sea monsters, alien abduction, and paranormal phenomena have no supporting evidence whatsoever. The fate of Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their daughter Sophia, and the 7 crew members remains unknown. They were never seen again, and no bodies were ever recovered. The Mary Celeste itself continued sailing under new owners for another 12 years. In 1885, a captain named G.C. Parker deliberately sailed the ship into a reef near Haiti as part of an insurance fraud scheme. When the vessel failed to sink as planned, authorities discovered the fraud. The Mary Celeste was left on the reef, damaged beyond repair, where it deteriorated. In 2001, author and adventurer Clive Cussler claimed to have found the wreck of the Mary Celeste off Haiti, but later analysis showed the timbers were from a different vessel. More than 150 years have passed since the Mary Celeste was found, drifting in the Atlantic. Despite extensive research, investigation, and speculation, we still don't know with certainty what happened to the people aboard. The mystery endures because the available evidence supports multiple plausible scenarios, but proves none of them definitively. The Mary Celeste has become more than just a maritime mystery. It has become a byword for inexplicable disappearance, a reminder that even in the modern era of technology and communication, the sea still holds secrets it may never reveal. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.